السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Dear students at Faculty of Commerce English section, first grade. Today we will have our section about the main measurement of economic performance. In last sections we talked main measurement like the gross domestic product, CPI, and the GDP deflator. And today we will have a revision about the gross domestic product. We have some components that we can count in the gross domestic product, like the goods and services consumed at home. Because these goods and services consumed at home, we can't enter it to the marketplace, so we can't include it in the gross domestic product. So we have the main definition: gross domestic product includes all items produced in the economy and sold legally in the market. So GDP excludes most items that are produced and consumed at home and that never enter the marketplace, or the goods that are illegally traded, like drugs. We can't include it in the gross domestic product because it has been traded illegal way. Then we take the main components. We have the four main components, and we have the most focus on the expenditure approach. Expenditure approach, we can calculate the gross domestic product by calculating or summing the four main components: C plus I plus G plus net exports, consumption expenditure plus investment expenditure plus government expenditure plus net exports. So when we add these components up, we have the gross domestic product, which we will denote it for capital Y. So we will have a symbol for the gross domestic product, capital Y. First component is consumption, and consumption has its definition. It's the spending by households on goods and services. So any spending by household on goods and services, we can include it in consumption. For renters, المستأجرين, consumption includes rent payments. يبقى المستأجرين هنا بيدفعوا الإيجار في صورة consumption. For home owners, consumption includes the imputed rental value of the house. Imputed rental value is expected value. Expected value, if I rent this home, how much it can bring. So this for homeowners. We can't include the purchase price or mortgage payment in the consumption because we add it in once. احنا ضفناها أول ما الهاوس اتعمل، أول ما البيت اتعمل، إنشاؤه تم إضافته مرة واحدة في الجروس domestic product. The second component is investment, and we must focus. We take the gross investment in order to calculate the gross domestic product. And gross investment means that we include depreciation. Total spending on goods that will be used in the future to produce more goods. So we use investment in order to produce more goods. So such spending on capital equipment like machines, tools for the factory, structures like factories, office building, houses, inventories, goods produced but not yet sold. So any change in these goods, we can calculate it in investment component. So investment component is not about purchasing financial assets like stocks and bonds. We here calculate it as an spending approach, as an investment approach, as an change in inventory for increasing or decreasing. So increasing in inventory mean increasing in investment, decreasing in inventory mean decreasing in investment. And we have the capital equipment, we have the structures. Third component is the government purchase, المدفوعات الحكومية. Government purchase is the spending in goods and services by local, state, or federal governments. It doesn't include transfer payments, and we take this in the last chapter. We said that we can't include transfer payments because transfer payments is not spending on goods and services. It's a social security or benefits that individuals have in a monetary image في صورة نقدية يتحصل على مبلغ من المال في مقابل الإعانات الحكومية. أحسب إمتى transfer payments أو المدفوعات الحكومية كجزء من ال gross domestic product when I take the transfer payments and I use it in order to purchase goods or services, so I can calculate it as a gross domestic product. So G, capital G, is the government purchase. We can't include transfer payments such as social security or unemployment insurance because this is not an actual payment or spending on goods and services. A last component is about the behavior with the external world. And we have two behaviors is exports or imports. And if we have a positive value from decreasing exports minus imports, this means that exports is larger than imports. So I had a surplus. But if we have a negative exports minus imports, this means that I had a deficit. And third case, if I have a break-even point. Break-even is when exports is equal to imports. This means that net exports is equal to 0. So exports represent foreign spending on the economy's goods and services. Between imports is the proportions of consumption or investment or government spending that are spent on goods and services reduced upward. So I have two types of goods or two types of spending. We have exports and exports when I have a foreign spending on my or on the local economies, goods and services, and imports is the spending on the goods and services reduced upward. And this is a numerical example. Here, the US GDP and its component. We have the Y capital, and it's donated for GDP. We have the four main components: consumption, investment, government spending, and net exports. And this is a percentage of GDP. Of course, Y has a 100% of the GDP, while C has, we can calculate the percentage by dividing the consumption over Y multiply 100%. This will equals to 70.1. And we have, of course, investment as a component of Y, and it's 16.8%. Government spending, it's 18.9%, and net exports, it's by negative. And in this case, that means we have imports that is more than exports. We have a deficit. And most countries has a deficit in the net exports or in the balance of payment. We talk it the POP or balance of payment, ميزان المدفوعات. Per capita, and per capita when we calculate the Y divided by the population. So I can determine how much is the percentage or نصيب الفرد الواحد من الواي قد ايه. فنصيب الفرد الواحد من الواي هنا 42035 وهكذا في كل الكومبوننتس. هنا بيبقى نصيب الفرد الواحد. And then we have two main types of gross domestic product. He has the nominal gross domestic product and the real gross domestic product. Nominal, when you have a values the production of goods and services at current prices, الأسعار الحالية. Real GDP values the production of goods and services at constant price, أسعار ثابتة. An accurate view of the economy requires adjusting nominal to real. Why I have adjusting nominal to real؟ ليه أحول الناتج المحلي الإجمالي الاسمي لناتج محلي إجمالي حقيقي in order to avoid the change in prices. So I use constant prices, I use a base year price, and then I have an accurate comparison for the gross domestic product from one year to another. So by using the GDP deflator, I can conduct or calculate the real GDP from the nominal GDP. So nominal GDP is equals to the quantities or the production of goods and services at current prices. So nominal GDP, it's about Q multiply P. Quantities multiply prices. In case of real GDP, I have quantities 1 multiply price 1 and quantity 2 multiply price 1, quantity 3 multiply price 1. I have a constant prices. I have a base year that I can have an accurate comparison when I compare between 2 years GDP or between two countries in GDP. So this is an example. In this year, we had two main products or two main goods, pizza and latte, and we had 3 years. And every year we had price and the quantity for pizza and the price and the quantity for latte. نلاحظ هنا إن في تغير في الأسعار من سنة لأخرى. في تغير في الأسعار من سنة لأخرى بالنسبة للبيتزا، في تغير من سنة لأخرى بالنسبة لللاتيه. نفس الحالة في الكوانتيتيز بتتغير. طيب أنا in order to calculate the real GDP I must have a base year and constant price of a base year, and in order to calculate the real GDP for 2013 I must have a constant price. 2014 I must have constant price. So in this example, we want to calculate and compute the nominal GDP in each year. In order to compute the nominal GDP in each year, we had the price of the first product or first good multiply the quantity plus the price of the second good multiply quantity. So here price is 10 multiply 400 plus 2 multiply 1000. It will equals to $6,000. This is the nominal GDP for year 2012. In order to calculate the nominal GDP in the year 2013, we had the same process. We had the price 11 multiply 500 plus price of latte multiply quantity. 2014, the same. We have 12 multiply 600 plus 3 multiply 1200. And here focus, we had different prices and different quantities in order to calculate the nominal GDP. So here happened an increment of 37.5% from 2013 to 2012, and from 2014 or from 2013 to 2014, we had an increment of 30.9%. Here we calculate the real GDP. And in order to calculate the real GDP, we must have a base year. Here, the base year is 2012. So I must use the price of 2012 and the price of 2012 for the second product. So here, the price for pizza will be constant. I have constant prices in the base year is 10 multiplied 400 plus 2 multiplied 1000. So we have a great note here. The nominal GDP for the first year, 2012, will equals to the real GDP for 2012. In 2012, we have a nominal GDP of 6,000 and we have a real GDP of 6,000 also. For the second year, 2013, we had the price of 2012 multiplies the quantities of 2013, and also in the latter, we had a fixed prices, we had different quantities. So this increment is due to increase in production, not prices. Also here, we have increase in production, not prices. As we take before, the GDP is equals to quantity multiply price. يبقى أنا هنا يا شباب الجي دي بي بالنسبة لي ممكن يزيد نتيجة لزيادة الكوانتيتي، نتيجة لزيادة البرايس، النتيجة لزيادة في الكوانتيتي وزيادة في البرايس. هنا أنا بحيد البرايس بركنه على جنب. In order to calculate the real GDP أنا لازم أتخلى عن البرايس أو التغيرات التي تحدث في الأسعار عشان أشوف إنتاجي الحقيقي زاد بمقدار قد إيه. لأن الزيادة في الجي دي بي لوحدها أو في النومينال جي دي بي ما بتعكسش التقدم الاقتصادي أو ما بتعكسش النمو الاقتصادي لوحده. لازم يكون في تثبيت لعنصر السعر عشان أقدر أشوف التغيرات اللي حصلت في الإنتاج، إنتاجي بيزيد ولا لأ. أنا ممكن الأسعار تزيد والإنتاج يقل ولا إن الجي دي بي زاد، بس ده ما بيرجعش لوجود نمو اقتصادي، لوجود نمو في الأسعار، نمو شديد زي ما احنا أخدنا في الكونسيومر برايس اندكس اللي هو الانفليشن. So we have an increment of 20% and here increment of 16.7%. And then we had a comparison from the nominal GDP and real GDP. And we had an important note that the increment of real GDP is less than the increment of nominal GDP. لأن احنا عرفنا إن التغيرات أو الزيادة اللي في الجي دي بي أو النومينال جي دي بي، ولو قلت جي دي بي بس أو نومينال جي دي بي المصطلحين صح. طب لو أنا عايز ريل جي دي بي لازم أذكر إن هو ريل جي دي بي ناتج محل إجمالي حقيقي. وهنا حصلت برضو زيادة بس الزيادة بمقدار أقل. يبقى هنا النومينال جي دي بي we use current prices. طب real جي دي بي we use a base year price or constant prices from 2012. So the change in nominal GDP reflect both prices and quantities. يبقى تغيرات في الأسعار والكميات هو دي التغيرات اللي بتعكسها التغيرات في النومينال جي دي بي. بينما real جي دي بي بيعكس لي فقط الاماونت اوف جي دي بي، التغير اللي يحصل فيها لو كانت الأسعار ثابتة. ده معناه إن بيكون عندي زيرو انفليشن تقريبا. دي حالة theoretical بس حالة نظرية. أنا هنا بثبت الأسعار عشان أعرف إيه التغيرات اللي حصلت في الكميات. Hence the real GDP is corrected for inflation. لو جات لنا true or false real GDP is corrected for inflation، طبعا الإجابة دي true. طب nominal GDP is corrected for inflation، الإجابة دي false. The GDP deflator هنا أثر المكمل. GDP deflator has a formula. We can conduct the GDP deflator by having nominal GDP divided by real GDP multiply 100%. So when we have a nominal GDP divided by real GDP multiply 100, this we can have the GDP deflator. So change in GDP deflator from one year to another reflects the inflation rate. GDP deflator is a measure of the price level calculated as the ratio of nominal GDP to real GDP. So we have a ratio, nominal GDP divided by real GDP multiply 100, it's equals to GDP deflator. It tells us the rise in nominal GDP that is attributable to a rise in prices rather than rise in quantities produced. يبقى هنا برضو بشوف ايه التغيرات اللي تمت في الأسعار، لأن أنا عندي nominal GDP real GDP لنفس السنة هي نفس الكوانتيتيز. أنا عندي الكوانتيتيز، أنا هنا بشوف أثر السعر بس، بشوف أثر السعر. وهتلاحظوا الكلام ده عند حساب الجي دي بي ديفليتور للبيز يير أو سنة الأساس. When we calculate the GDP for the GDP deflator for the base year, it equals to 100. Why? Because the nominal GDP is equals to real GDP. So the GDP deflator is the measure of the overall level of prices, and we have the formula GDP deflator is equals to nominal GDP divided by real GDP multiply 100. And I can use the GDP deflator in order to calculate the real GDP if I had a nominal GDP of any year, any given year that we have the GDP deflator and nominal GDP, we can calculate the real GDP. الناتج المحلي الحقيقي يمكن حسابه من خلال المكمش والناتج المحلي الإجمالي الاسمي. طب الكلام ده ازاي؟ كل اللي فيها ان انت هتنقل الريال جي دي بي مكان الجي دي بي ديفليتور، وكده بتبدل زي ما احنا كنا نضرب طرفين في وسطين في الرياضة. يبقى الريال جي دي بي is equals to nominal GDP divided by GDP deflator multiply 100. So one way to measure the economy's inflation rate is to compute the percentage increase in the GDP deflator or the percentage change in the consumer price index. We had the other way. So one way to measure the economy inflation rate is to compute the percentage increase in the GDP deflator from one year to the next. So here the GDP deflator equals to nominal GDP divided by real GDP multiply 100. First year it will equals to 100. Second year we calculate it with the same formula and we نلاحظ هنا إن حصل فيه تغير وزيادة في الجي دي بي ديفليتور من 2012 ل 2013. We had a change of 14.6%. 2014 we have a change of 28.6 from the year 2012. This is the percentage change from one year to another, from 2012 to 2013, and from 2013 to 2014. We had change in GDP deflator, and this change we can calculate it as a inflation rate. So in order to converting the nominal GDP to real GDP, we can use this formula. Real GDP is equal to nominal GDP divided by GDP deflator multiply 100. So we had a nominal GDP divided by GDP deflator multiply 100. So for GDP as an economic measurement, as a main economic measurement, when we take the gross domestic product, it's the single or the best single measure of the economic well-being of a society, because the GDP per person tells us the income, expenditure of the average person in the economy. GDP per capita or GDP per person, we can calculate it by dividing the gross domestic product by the total population, and we can have the average person income or expenditure. So we had GDP as a higher measure, or a higher GDP per person indicates a higher standard of living. All of that is clear, but GDP has some deficits. GDP is not a perfect measure of happiness or quality of life. As we know that we have many activities that is useful to the society, but we can consider it as a part of the gross domestic product. Some activities like volunteering, cooking, or parenting, all of these activities, we can't include it in the gross domestic product because it didn't find a way to the market. Something that's contribute to well-being are not included in GDP, the value of leisure time, the value of clean environment, all activities that takes place outside of market, that like parenting and volunteering, distribution of income, and the food. So GDP is a very good measure, but as we see, we have some main components and important components that is not included in the gross domestic product. Then why do we care about GDP? We care about the gross domestic product because it enables country to afford better school, cleaner environment, better health care. If I had gross or large gross domestic product, I can have many schools, I can have hospitals, I can clean the environment, I can have better education. So we had many indicators of quality of life, and these indicators are positively correlated with the gross domestic product. So if I have larger gross domestic product, that doesn't mean necessarily I must have a clean environment or a good healthcare or a good education, but it helps to have these indicators or these services. We had another measure and very important measure of the economic activity. It's the gross national product, and gross national product is the total income earned by nation's permanent residents. In the gross domestic product, we focus on the place, on the country, in the borders. So when we calculate the gross domestic product of US, we take all the factors of production inside the US. Even it's not a local, even it was a foreigner, a foreign factory, a foreign individual that has consumption investment, we include it in the gross domestic product because he's a resident in this country. But for the gross national product, I focus on the nation's factors of production. And the gross national product has main the gross domestic product differs from the gross national product because the gross national product including income that our citizens earn abroad and excluding income that foreigners earn here. So we have an important example. If I had a Canadian citizen that works temporarily in the United States, his production is part of US GDP because he is a resident in the US. But he worked temporarily, that's why I can include his production in the Canadian gross national product. So this is the main difference between the gross domestic product and gross national product. Thank you for your time and see you in the next section. Thank you.